Okay, so now that we have our finest and our middle level of controls in place for the fingers, let's set up that highest level of control. If we jump back over to the whiteboard, you'll recall that we've already set up our lowest level of control and the middle level of control, but we still have this highest level of control where we have a single control object. If we rotate that in X, that's going to rotate all of our bones in X. If we have a parameter on there that's called spread, then we change that. It's going to rotate our fingers at the very top knuckle to spread, and then bring our fingers back together depending on which direction we move that parameter. So we're going to set up that control. Now the way we're going to approach this is to create a control object as a child of our palm, so that we follow our palm in terms of orientation and position, and that control object will be a circular null where we only have the ability to rotate in X. Now we're going to create duplicates of the second level FK controls, and we're going to have those hidden but parents of our second level FK controls. So if they get transformed, our FK control will get transformed, and we're going to reference on those the rotate X of our control object, our main control object, along with referencing in our rotate Y a relationship to that spread parameter, so that if we change the spread, our fingers get rotated in Y. Then for all of the other bones except for those top bones, we're going to select those bones and we're going to apply to them the change in their rotate X that will also add on the rotate X of that main control object as well. So that's the approach we're going to take. Let's jump back down into Houdini and start out by wiring a new node off of our palm. So I'm going to branch off of our palm into a new null, and I'm going to call this L underscore fingers underscore FK control. Let's give it a blue node color since it is a control object. Let's give it a blue wireframe color since we're on the left hand side of our character. I want to give this a control type of circles and an orientation of our YZ plane since we can only rotate on X. I do want to slide this down to the middle point of our hand, right around where our knuckles are. So I'm going to grab translate in Z, start sliding that down in negative Z to around about that position there, and then boost our geoscale very slightly so it's slightly larger, so that when we are back and dealing with a higher level of control, we can actually see the control object fairly clearly. So we've got that control object in place. We can go ahead and lock all of our transformation parameters except for rotate X. So let's lock all the translates, rotate Y and Z, all the scales, the pivots, and our uniform scale. So we've got that control in place. Now for each of the fingers, I'm going to duplicate their FK control, their main FK control that's dealing with that middle level of control. I'm going to go ahead, duplicate that, parent the original FK control up under that, and then I'm going to reference the rotate X parameter of the newly created control object onto those duplicates of the old control objects. To do that, let's maximize our network editor. I'm going to need a little bit more space to work with, so I'm going to grab all of the nodes relating to our fingers except for their roots. I'm just going to slide those out. Didn't want to grab the thumb. There we go. Just to give ourselves just a small amount more room. Then we can shrink this back up. Fantastic. So I'm going to start out with finger 1, Control C, Control V to duplicate that control object. Let's take away its node color since it's not going to be a control that the animator actually ever selects. Turn off selectability and visibility. Rename this to L underscore finger 1 underscore fingers rotations, relating to the fact that we're dealing with that finger FK control, the overall fingers FK control, and we're dealing with getting rotations from that. We can turn around and parent our existing control to the newly created control, zeroing out any small inaccuracies. So now if we were to rotate this guy in X, we know that's going to affect our finger as a whole there. Fantastic. So we can repeat that now. Well, before we do that, let's actually link up the rotate X to our newly created control. So our rotate X is going to be L underscore fingers underscore FK control rotate X. And that means if we come in and grab that control and rotate it on X, it's going to rotate that finger as a whole, of course, pivoting about its local pivot point as opposed to pivoting about our pivot point. Fantastic. So let's repeat this for finger 2. So I'm going to Control C, Control V, L underscore finger 2, FK control, renaming that to L underscore finger 2, fingers rotations. Get rid of the node color, turn off visibility, selectability and visibility. Let's jump over and parent our finger 2 FK control up under that, zeroing out any inaccuracies in the rotations, and then go ahead and link our rotate X up to our L underscore fingers underscore FK control / RX to grab the rotate X. So now we have both of those fingers being affected. So let's do that for 3 and 4. So Control C, Control V. I'll start speeding up while doing this now. So we've seen this all before. So finger 3 underscore fingers rotations, and we want to parent underneath that, zero out any inaccuracies, and go ahead and link up our rotate X to L underscore fingers underscore FK control / rotate X. So just one more to do now. Control C, Control V, take away the node color, selectability, visibility, L underscore finger 4 underscore fingers rotations. Go ahead and parent underneath that, go ahead and zero out any inaccuracies, and then finally reference that rotation. So L underscore fingers underscore FK control rotate X. So now if we jump in and grab that control object and rotate, it's going to rotate all of our fingers as a whole. So we're part of the way there. Do you want to go ahead now and add that spread parameter for rotating the fingers in Y? Again, we're going to make use of those new nodes that we just created to do that, but we need to have a parameter that we can reference. So I'm going to bring up the edit parameter interface for that control, drag out a new float. I'm going to create a spread parameter. And this spread parameter, again with a label of spread, from some testing I found that a good range for this parameter on the slider goes from a negative 7.5 degrees to a positive 15. I'll leave those unlocked in case the animator wants to push it further, but I found from testing that is a nice range to have on our spread parameter. So in terms of the spread, finger 1 needs to move out when we spread with a larger value. Finger 2 is going to be unaffected. Finger 3 needs to move out in the opposite direction but by the same amount. And then finger 4 needs to move out in the same direction as finger 3 but by twice as much. So I'm going to grab that finger 1 fingers rotation, rotate in Y, and it turns out I need to go in a negative direction in order for our spread control to work. So I'm going to rotate by a negative of our L underscore fingers underscore FK control / spread. So now if we grab our fingers control, if we spread in a positive direction, we spread out and bring back in, we're going to bring our fingers closer together. We want to grab that expression, Control C. We're skipping finger 2. Finger 2, I'm going to undo where I deleted that expression by accident. Finger 2 is going to remain stationary when we spread. Finger 3 in rotate Y needs to go in the positive direction, so that's on the finger 3 fingers rotations null. In rotate Y we want to go in a positive direction, and then finger 4 on that null, on the fingers rotations null in Y, we want to go in a positive direction but 2 times that. So now if we grab our FK control, the overall FK control, and spread or bring the fingers back together, we have control over doing that nicely. So all that's left to do is to link up the remaining bones in our fingers so that their rotate X references that controls rotate X. So I'm going to do this by writing a small Python script just in a Python shell. So I'm going to grab all of the lower bones. Obviously our upper bones, because they're parented in, they don't need to be affected, they're already affected, but the 8 other finger bones, I'm going to select them. I'm then going to bring up a Python shell, and I'm going to write a very small Python script. I basically want to loop through each of these selected nodes. So I'm going to say for bone in who.selected nodes. I'm going to create an expression basically and then set that expression. So the expression is going to be equal to their old expression. So bone.palm rx.expression. And I want to append onto that. Now I know that I basically want to append on a channel expression, and I want to reference the L underscore fingers underscore FK control rotate X. If I was doing this manually, I know that what I'd append onto this would be the text plus channel : / L underscore fingers underscore FK control / rotate X, end the quote, end the channel expression. Now end my string for the appending in terms of the Python expression. So that's going to give us the expression. Now still inside that loop, I want to go ahead and say bone.parameter rotate x dot set expression and set it to that newly created expression. If I enter and enter once more, that will end that loop and then execute that Python code. We can take a look at any of those lower bones and take a look at their rotate x and see that that did indeed get appended in on the end there. And that's going to have done that for all of our bones. So now if we were to take a look at that overall control and rotate this, you're going to see that that will rotate our hand as a whole. Fantastic. We can also come in as before, grab the next controls down and rotate the finger on its own. Or we can come in and grab each of the lowest level, finest level controls and work solely with each of the bones in turn. So we now have the full range of control on our hands. The only thing left to do is to set up the FK on our thumb and to set up a parameter to allow us to control the visibility of these controls. That's what we're going to do in the next video. This is going to conclude this video. Thanks a lot, everyone.